All right, good morning, everybody. Continuing on with the apprentice series. The good news for all of you, for the next couple of weeks, you don't have to hear me. So we have good guest keynote speakers to help you. And today is about inspections, and probably one of the most integral part of the whole transaction is inspections. And where the inspections are really, really valuable, we set this sequence up in the order of classes for a reason. Last week, we talked about the importance of disclosures, but we also talked about the fact that inspections are going to help you as substitute disclosures when sometimes your sellers either miss something, they forget something, they're not aware of something. These inspections fill in those gaps, okay? And they're all part of the disclosure process. So if you're on the listing side, you're doing your disclosures with your seller, but you're also getting all your pre-sale inspections done as a complete disclosure package. So the inspections really, really are still tied to the whole disclosure issue in a transaction, which, as I stated before, when there's litigation, this is where it's at. It's for non-disclosure. And these inspections help you with non-disclosure issues. HomeGuard is our preferred vendor. I've been working with them, if you were listening to Marlin, for darn near 30 years now. They're probably one of the most reputable inspection companies in the industry. And what I love about HomeGuard is they stand behind what they do. Okay, they stand behind what they do. And we've had a great relationship with them over the years. And Jimmy and Marlin are going to present today for you. You're not supposed to be experts, okay? But what I want you guys to learn from them today is you still need to understand the process and what the terminology means. They don't expect you, and I don't want you to be interpreters of inspection reports, okay? But you do have to have a basic understanding about what goes into a report and what some of that stuff means. But when you start getting down to the detailed questions, you'll always refer them back to the inspection company. But as an agent, you need to have a very good general overview of the inspection process and what every day go through and some of the terminology. So I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to turn it over to Marlin, and they're going to take it from there. And then you guys will have an opportunity to do Q&A with them at the end of the program. It's all yours,
Thanks,
Marlin.
Bill. Thanks, Bill. So I'm going to do a little short commercial about HomeGuard. So when you call HomeGuard, you're going to make one phone call and you're going to be able to order termite, property, roof, natural hazard, and home warranty. And the more you order, the more you save. So we have different packages like our VIP. That's when you order the termite and the property inspection, and you get the roof inspection for free. And that comes with drone pictures. And all of our reports have colored pictures so that you can show your agents, you can show your clients, your customers, everything what's going on in the report visually. We also do the iPad summary at the end of the reports and at the end of the inspections. I'm off cue here. Okay, they'll be able to answer all your questions after the inspection, so that if you do have any questions, the inspector is still there. Now, when you get the report the next day, if you have more questions, you go ahead and call the office, and someone is always going to be there, a general manager that's going to be able to answer all the questions. We have E&O, workman's comp liability, in every single division of HomeGuard, and we do Saturday inspections, no extra charge for that. And one of the best parts is when you get the 8:30 or the 10:30 time slot, you're going to get your inspections on the same day. So I think I'm done. Jimmy, you want to take over now?
Sure. Bill had mentioned.
Thanks for saving me.
Yeah, Bill mentioned that he's been working with HomeGuard for 31 years, or Marlin at least for 31 years. Marlin's been saying that same speech that she just gave right now for 31 years, and she still struggles with it sometimes. It makes me laugh. I've known her all 31 of them.
My phone went off and it threw me off.
I know. Judy tried to tell you to turn your phone off, but you didn't want to listen. Anyway, so we're gonna get into it. What we're going to talk about today, guys, is, like Bill mentioned, is the inspection and the value of the termite inspection, the home inspection, also a little bit of the roof inspection, why you guys order those inspections, what to look for in those inspection reports, and then how those reports will help you become better real estate agents. For those of you in the room that are new, for those of you in the room that have done business before, hopefully you guys can glean some information from this inspection report. So Bill mentioned that he's been working with HomeGuard for a long time. Bill and my dad go way back. I'm a third generation termite inspector. My grandfather owned an inspection company in the 60s, 70s, 80s, into the 90s. My dad broke off from my grandfather's company. He was a little bit more direct to consumer. My dad partnered up with a top producing real estate agent, and they started HomeGuard in '88. I graduated college twice to never work for the family business. This was not my end goal. Ta-da, here I am. But I bring with me a lot of knowledge about the termite inspection reports, the home inspection reports. If you guys have questions, ask those questions. You guys have the chat box. Judy and Marlin can help me kind of guide along that chat box there. If you guys have the questions, I'm going to have the answers for you. So we'll get right into it. I use this PowerPoint here. Normally, I would be there in person with you guys and we'd talking about this. I don't necessarily have a PowerPoint. I'm a little bit more of a personal guy. The Zoom is what it is. It serves its purpose. It's done really well for us during this challenging time. But I use this termite PowerPoint as kind of a guide. And I'll talk about termite inspections. I'll talk about home inspection reports, and just kind of weave in that information throughout the PowerPoint here. So this is what we're going to talk about. This is our training agenda for today. So we're going to talk about kind of the licensing requirements for termite inspectors, kind of compared to a home inspector, what to expect from your inspections, how to read the reports. Bill mentioned you guys don't have to be experts, and we don't expect you to be experts. But the more you know about these reports, the better you're going to help your clients, and then the smoother the transactions will be. So we're going to talk about how to read the reports, what types of inspections we offer on the different reports that we have, and then we'll get into the findings and the terminology. It's important for you guys to understand the terms that we're using at the inspection report, or at the inspection times. We're going to talk to you guys, and we're going to use termite terminology. The more you know about that stuff, the more when we leave, we've given Marlin mentioned we're going to give our iPad overview. And it's like that for most companies. They're going to talk about what it is that they're finding at the report, at the inspection. You guys are going to want to know what those terms mean. So when we leave and your clients say, well, what did he mean when he said this or that? What's a certification? What's a supplemental? Why do we have to do that? The more you understand, the more you read these reports, the better you're going to be able to serve your clients. And then finally, we'll talk about that certification on a termite report and what we're looking for. So we'll get right into it. In California, something unique about the termite report is that it's public record. It's the only inspection that you guys order. You guys take a listing, you order a termite inspection, a home inspection, a roof inspection, a chimney inspection, a pool. The termite report is the only inspection that's public record. And the reason that it's public record is we have a governing body. It's the Structural Pest Control Board. You guys have a governing body. It's the DRE. I think it was the BRE for a while. It might be back to the DRE. We have a governing body. It's the Structural Pest Control Board. My grandfather was actually the president of the Structural Pest Control Board for a few years in the late 80s, early 90s. We have a governing body that sets forth a standard for how inspections should be performed on the termite side. And because we have a standard of the way the termite inspection report should be done, we have a standard form that we have to use. So this front cover sheet of a termite report is the same for every single termite inspection that you guys order. It's public record. We have a governing body, and every inspector is individually licensed. I, as a termite inspector, have a license to do inspections. You guys, if you don't have an inspection license, you can't do an inspection. I can't sell real estate. I don't have my real estate license. And that's what kind of separates the termite report from the home inspection, the roof inspection, chimney inspection. No other inspection requires a license. I could hire Brandon Leland, and he can go out and do a termite report or a home inspection report for me this afternoon, but he wouldn't be able to go out and do this termite report here. So what we're looking at, this cover sheet for a termite report, is the same. And when you guys order, for the new agents in the room, as you guys kind of progress in your career and start to look at, you've done 20 deals in a year, 30 deals. I mean, that's what we're all going for. Whatever company you choose, whether it be HomeGuard or any other company, this is the form that's you guys are going to look at. So if we want to go to the next slide, let's talk about this form. Let's talk about what it is that's important on this form. I've already referred to this inspection as a termite report. I think most agents will refer to it as either a termite report or a pest report, but both of those names are a little bit misleading. We don't just identify termites, and we don't identify general pests. So I think a lot of the contracts refer to this as a pest report, but we don't identify general pests. Our report is called a wood destroying pest and organism inspection report. That's what the Structural Pest Control Board wants us to call this report. That's what we call it, a wood destroying pest and organism inspection report. That being said, any new agent in this room, don't ever call another agent and ask them to send you over a copy of the wood destroying pest and organism inspection report. They're going to know right away that you're a brand new agent. Call it a termite report, call it a pest report, but we're going to talk about what it is that we identify. What we identify as termite inspectors is wood destroying pests. Those wood destroying pests are termites. And what we identify are wood destroying organisms. The wood destroying organism that we identify is fungus damage or water damage to wood. It is not mold. Termite inspectors, home inspectors, we don't identify mold. There's a certified industrial hygienist that or environmental hygienist that will look for mold. They come out, they have their little, but we aren't mold inspectors. We look for fungus damage, and fungus is just water damage to wood. And a lot of times we use the term dry rot as a synonym for fungus damage. So that's what we identify on a termite report. We go out, we check the outside, the inside, the attic, the crawl space. What we're looking for are the termites, the bugs, the wood destroying pests, and we're also looking for water damage. So we're looking for leaks, anything that would cause damage or an infestation of termites. A home inspector is a little bit different. A home inspector is looking at the systems and components of the house. As a home inspector, I would go out and I look at the plumbing system, the electrical system, the heating system, the air conditioning, ventilation, the heating, the roof system. And I'm looking at all of those different systems and components of the house to make sure that they operate under normal operating controls and that there aren't any major safety concerns with those. Home inspectors aren't code enforcement agents. We aren't out there. I don't know all the different codes for every city, every county. States all have different codes. We don't identify code violations, but what we do notice are health or safety issues. And the example that I'll use is like a railing on a staircase. Some counties it's 4 inches, which is about the size of a fist. So if I can get my hand through a railing, a baby could get their head through a railing. So that's kind of but I don't know if it's 4 inches or 4 1/8 or 4 1/4 inches. I just know that the railings are too far apart. And so those are the things that a home inspector will identify. Let's go to the next slide. Perfect. So in all of your reports, the information that's in that report might seem mundane. It might seem like it's general information. It's there. Pay attention to that information, because what's going to happen is if we don't pay attention to the little things on this report, it'll come back to cause a major problem at the end. And it might be as simple as an address. We may have transposed the number. Instead of 2623 Anywhere Street, maybe we put 2363 Anywhere Street. And what's going to happen is you guys are going to work through the process of this transaction. You're going to get right to the end where an underwriter is checking every detail, every T, every I, making sure that pages weren't signed in black ink and then signed in blue ink. And one of the things that might catch at the end there would be if this information is incorrect. You also want to make sure that this information is the same as your house, and we didn't send you a copy of another inspection report. So read this information there. You also see the date of the inspection. For both the termite and the home report, the date of the inspection is important to remember for a couple different reasons, and we'll get into it a little bit further on the termite side. But just kind of a key for you guys to understand, maybe you want to write this down somewhere, is 4 months. You guys want to keep in mind that these reports generally are good for about 4 months. In California, we have seasons. We go through the different seasons. There are states where you have winter and then more winter. For us, we go through all of the different seasons, so conditions are likely to change. And the state of California says the conditions change about every 4 months. So if you get a copy of an inspection report, this report, for example, you ask another agent, maybe this is public record, so you could also go to the Structural Pest Control Board, type in an address and get a copy of that report. But if you ask, maybe you have a buyer and you ask the seller, do you have a copy of the inspections report? And they send you this report. This report was dated February 20th. Oh, okay, that's great. That was just a couple days ago of 2019. That was 2 years ago. Conditions change drastically over 2 years. About every 4 months, they're going to change. So pay attention to the date of the inspection. I keep pointing over here. I have 2 screens, so I don't know if you guys are paying attention there or not. But and then also the number of pages. The number of pages is important because You want to make sure that when you get a copy of this report, you're not just getting pages 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, what was on page 2, 4, 6, and 8. If you're asking another agent for a copy of this report, and it's public record, and they only send you a couple of pages, call them back, say, hey, we're missing a couple of pages here, because there's valuable information. We'll talk about it because we're going to go page by page here, but there's valuable information on each and every page. And you guys have a responsibility, you guys have a fiduciary responsibility to best represent your clients. You're as important to them as lawyers are. So if you're as important as lawyers, it would be important that you're reading the entirety of the report. And that's what I would stress, and I'll stress it at the end of this meeting today. If I don't get anything across to you guys other than reading your reports, I'll be happy. Because a lot of times we get calls from agents and they're upset or they're concerned, something happened, they don't know why it's being done this way, and it'll clearly explain that somewhere. And I just refer that, well, if you read page 3, it says here in bold letters, this was an area not inspected, so read the reports. That will be the best thing the best advice that I can give to any agent whenever they ask me, well, I'm new to real estate, you're a termite guy, what do I need to know about termite reports? And I tell them every single time, just read them. It's not, there's nothing in here that, listen, I got a lot of guys that work for me that there's nothing in here that isn't difficult to understand. If you saw some of my guys, you would know what I'm talking about. So let's go to the next slide before I get myself in trouble. Ordered by property, party in interest, and escrow information. This is important. You guys want to have this information there. What I really like to highlight from this slide here is that box that says escrow information is empty. Check with the different companies that you guys are going to end up using. I know that HomeGuard has an excellent relationship at Legacy. So if you ask the top agents there, they're going to tell you that they use HomeGuard. But even the other companies that are being used, there are a lot of termites in this area. There are a lot of really good companies. Ask if those companies will allow you to bill either the inspections or the work to escrow. It's a way that you can save your clients some upfront cash. Instead of having to pay for the inspections up front or repairs even, they can bill those repairs or some of those inspections to escrow. And if we have the escrow information, then we can do that. If we don't have the escrow information, I have nowhere to send the bill to. So, what I highlight here is make sure the names are correct, obviously. But then if you guys have the escrow information, when you guys call or book your inspections online, HomeGuard has a new app that's going to be coming out in about a month, where you guys can do all of this information. You guys can enter your escrow officer, your information one time, and it's going to save it for you. So it's going to make it really easy. But our customer care team, when you guys call them, they're going to walk you through this process. And one of the pieces of information they're going to ask is, do you have escrow open yet? And if you do, let's get that escrow information just in case you want to bill any of those repairs or inspections to escrow. So next slide. So on the termite report, because it's that we have a governing body, they have certain names that they want reports called, and certain reports have different meanings. So we have a complete report, a limited report, a supplemental report, and a reinspection. On the home inspection side, it's basically your original report and a supplemental report. If we have to go back out because something was locked. We do some re-inspections on a home inspection report, and they're kind of similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about it from a termite standpoint and then kind of weave some of that home inspection information in there. So a complete report, if we go to the next slide, a complete report is just that. It's a complete inspection report of the entire structure and then everything attached to that structure. And I'll give some examples. Any detached home is going to be a complete report. And when we do a complete report, if there's anything attached to the home, like a deck or a patio cover, that's going to be included on the complete report. Now, sometimes you don't want that deck or you don't want that patio inspection. You take a listing, and one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to walk around the house. And it's kind of a part of your agent visual inspection, part of your disclosure is you're taking notes about the property, but you can visually tell. You don't have to be a termite guy or a contractor to know that the deck in the backyard is shot. You don't want to represent that deck. In fact, you're going to tell the buyers that you're going to tear that deck out. And maybe you don't want that deck included on the termite report because, again, it's public record. I issued that termite report. I put it with the Structural Pest Control Board. Anybody can then get a copy of that report. They don't have to be in real estate. So if a buyer types in an address and they get a copy of that report, decks are costly. Decks and patio, they're nice, they're beautiful additions to a home when they're in good condition, but they also detract a lot from the value of a home when they're in poor condition. So if you have a property and you walk in the backyard and you can already tell that you don't want the deck or the patio included, then you can order a limited report. So we'll go to the next slide. Limited report is when we take something and we don't inspect it so that it's not included on the original report. So a lot of times if I'm excluding a deck or if I'm excluding a patio cover, maybe a garage, a detached garage that you don't want included on the report, we'll make that a limited report and we'll tell you that we are excluding this item. This is an inspection of the home, excluding the deck in the backyard. Another time that we use a limited report, and this is both on the termite and the home inspection, is when it's attached. And most common would be a condo situation. Every single condo that we inspect is a limited inspection, because if the Structural Pest Control Board said that I did a complete report on that condo, I would be doing a complete report on the entire structure. And that might be 8 units, might be 250 units. What we are inspecting is what you guys tell us to inspect. And typically on a condo, it's the address only, unit A only, unit B only. And we're excluding mutually exclusive, mutually used areas. So if they share a wall, we're not going to inspect, you know, the inside of that wall or the other side of that wall. If it's an attached home, a duet style home, I'm only going to inspect your property. So when we go out and we issue a limited report, it's either to exclude something from the inspection, either a deck, patio cover, something like that, or when we're inspecting a condo or a townhome, and we're only going to inspect your unit. And a lot of times it's what you guys represent as the agent, or what your sellers represent. You know, when Marlin and Bill first got together and we were talking about CC&Rs for condo units, they were, you know, 6 pages of information on what a CCR. Now it's 6 binders full of information. Well, somewhere in that 6 binders full of information is what you guys represent. And it might be the paint in, it might be the sheetrock in, it might be the exclusive use areas for that truck. So we're going to inspect what you guys tell us to inspect. If there's ever a question and you guys don't know, termite home inspection, you don't know what you represent, always start small, and then we can add on to it later. And we add on to that, no charge. You don't ever want to start big and then try to take away, because once I've issued that report on the termite side, I can't take anything off of it. So if you say, I don't know, I had this happen one time where an agent called me up, said, hey, I need you to go out and do this condo. It's an end unit. I'll look through. I don't know what to inspect yet. Just go ahead and inspect inside and outside. I said, are you sure? I'll limit it to the inside first. He said, no, let's just make it inside, outside. We'll deal with it later. So I inspected the inside and the outside. The inside was fine, but the outside was up against it was an end unit. And there was a little grassy area, and the sprinklers had been turned sideways or kicked over the years. And instead of spraying a majority of the grass, and then spraying some of the grass, and then the entire right side of the structure, all wood siding, all damaged. So I put it all in my report, and there's a lot of damage to the right side of this property, you know, $12,000, $15,000 worth of siding. And the agent called me and said, great, good news. A couple days later, we only represent the inside. The HOA is going to take care of the outside, take it off the report. I said, I can't. And then it got worse because the HOA didn't want to fix any of the exterior because they were in litigation with the landscape company who caused the damage. So then there was this big issue where we could have just started with the inside, and if you wanted to add the outside later, we could do that. And what we can always do is do one report limited to the interior, and then a separate report, and we'll limit it to the exterior. That way you have 2 reports for disclosure. You can turn one report into whoever you want to. You'll always have the other report. Bill mentioned disclosure. Disclosure. It's the most important thing. You could have the information, but it's not going to be on the same report where, you know, the dollar amount starts to tick higher and higher and higher, especially if you're representing the seller. So that's what a limited report is, when we're limiting our inspection to certain areas of the property. The next is a supplemental report. And I talked about kind of locked areas. A lot of times we get to a home, and we're seeing this a lot on some of these flipped homes where they rip out all the carpet and they put new carpet in, and they carpet right over the top of my sub area access. I can't get into the sub area because there's brand new carpet in the closet. I'm not going to sit there and rip up the brand new carpet to get to the sub area. What I'll do is I'll call a supplemental report. I'll call a report that says, hey, listen, I wasn't able to get into certain areas of this home. Maybe the garage is full of storage. That's kind of our number one supplemental item, is a garage full of storage. So maybe I tell you I wasn't able to get into the garage, I wasn't able to get into the sub area. I'll come back out, no charge, and inspect those areas. And when I come back out and inspect those areas, any information that I find is going to go on a supplemental report. Supplemental report is very similar to an addendum in your contracts. So I go out, I find additional information or findings on my supplemental inspection, and I issue that in a supplemental report. And the last report that we have is a re-inspection report. State of California, we have a license to do termite inspections. So I can give you a bid to do anything from my termite report. Termite damage, wood damage, plumbing fixes. We offer you dollar amounts to repair those items. And that's what separates this termite report from a home inspection report. There is no license requirement for a home inspector in California. So the state says, well, if you don't have a license, if you're not a professional, you can't do the repairs on this property. So a termite inspector goes out, we identify 5 things wrong with your home. I'm going to issue you 5 bids to do repairs on the termites and the plumbing and the water damaged wood. The home inspector won't put any bids in his report. Can't. He'll refer you out to the appropriate trades. You have electrical issues, go see an electrician. You have giant cracks in your foundation, go see a foundation specialist or engineer, structural engineer. You have plumbing leaks. I can't fix any of those plumbing leaks, the home inspector, but the termite inspector can. Doesn't mean that you have to have the termite inspector do it. Maybe you have somebody in your family who's a contractor and can do those repairs. And maybe they won't charge you, or they'll charge you a lot less than what HomeGuard would charge you. That's okay. You guys are allowed to choose somebody else to do the work. If you do, you will, and if you have somebody else do the work and you want what's called a certification, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but if you want us to come back out and say everything was taken care of, the damage was removed, there's no more damage there, that's what a re-inspection report is. Now, the supplemental report is no charge. So if you have a garage full of storage, I'll come back out and inspect that garage. Once you've pulled all the storage out, I don't charge you to come back out. If you have a locked sub area or a closed off sub area, if you give me access and you get me into the sub area, I'll come back out, no charge for that. But if you want me to come back out and look at somebody else's work to make sure they got all the damage out, there is a charge for that. And every single termite inspection company in California does the re-inspections, and they charge a re-inspection fee for that. So keep in mind that that re-inspection fee can be as much as the original inspection. Most companies don't charge as much as the original inspection, but every single re-inspection can be as much. And so something to keep in mind there is if you have HomeGuard come out 6 or 7 times to look at different things, those are going to be 6 or 7 different re-inspection fees. So if you're going to have somebody else do the work, make sure they take care of all of the work. And another, Marlin always jumps in here, and so I'm going to beat her to the punch on this. A good time to do a re-inspection report is when everything is open. And the bathroom floor is a perfect example of this. So let's say I go underneath the house at my original inspection, I find water damage. Maybe the tub's been leaking for years and there's water damage around the tub and it's caused some damage to the floor. I call to have that floor ripped out and a new floor put in. I charge what I charge. You have maybe there's a brother, Kathleen, maybe your brother's a contractor, and he goes out and he'll do it for free, or he's going to charge, X amount less than HomeGuard. That's great. Have him, but don't put the new floor in before you call the re-inspection. Call the re-inspection when the floor has been taken out so that I can get in there and make sure that damage hasn't extended into areas that I wasn't able to see. The flooring system is layered. So I can see the top from the bathroom and I can see the bottom from the sub area, but there are layers in the middle, underlayment, subfloor that I'm not able to see. So when everything is open, I can get out there and tell you, okay, all the damage has been removed, proceed with repairs. And then you guys will get your certification on that item. So the perfect time to do a re-inspection is when everything is open. If you close it up, doesn't mean that I won't give you the re-inspection. There's just this little kind of red flag that goes with it that says that it appears that all the damage has been removed. However, no open re-inspection was performed and HomeGuard makes no guarantees. You still get the certification on the item, but an underwriter might see that and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? So the best way to avoid that is just anytime anything is open, call to have the re-inspection done. HomeGuard has managers that will hold your hand throughout the entire process of that. So if you have any questions, call us. Say, hey, listen, we're having repairs done. I have a contractor who's going to do it. When should I call you guys? This item and this item, how should we do this? We have no problem helping you guys along with that process, because all that it's going to do is help speed the process up, help you guys close that deal, help you guys move on to the next deal where hopefully you're calling HomeGuard. So, we work hand in hand with you guys on that. So go to the next one. This general description kind of gets back to the slide up at the top where I was talking about the address. This is going to be on a termite report, on a home inspection report. We're going to talk about what the structure looks like. From a termite standpoint, we have to tell you that it's a general description of the home is a one-story single family home, wood frame, stucco exterior, whatever it is. Make sure that that information matches the information of the property. There have been times where inspectors, and I'm not going to say it was me, but let's just say it was me. I inspected the wrong property. There were two houses that were next to each other. One of them had a for sale sign. I thought that was the house I was supposed to go to. I was supposed to have a lockbox. The agent said, oh, it's supposed to be there. Don't worry if it's not there. The side door is open. Side door wasn't open on that property. The back door was, though. I opened the back door. I walked in. I inspected this house. It ended up being the wrong house. Both houses were for sale. One of them had a for sale sign. One of them didn't. I was supposed to inspect the one, maybe me, maybe somebody else, was supposed to inspect the other property. The general descriptions didn't match. One was a two-story, one was a one-story. So when the agent called me and said, hey, the general description doesn't match, can you fix it? And I said, no, Bob, take a look at the picture on number 2. Because he told me my house is a one-story. You say it's a two-story. So yeah, look at picture 2. It's the second-story rafters, the damage. So we were able to clear it up because the agent got the report, and the first thing the agent did was read the report. So if you're not reading the report and you wait till the very end and you're supposed to sign off and close deal because the rate's locked and then we find out that there's this huge problem. Let's get those problems handled up front. When Bill's talking about HomeGuard stepping up to the plate, that's an easy one for HomeGuard to say, yeah, we did wrong. Let's go back out there and fix that. But the quicker that we can get on those problems, because you guys are reading the reports, the better we are able to handle those issues for you. So I talked about this report being a wood destroying pest and organism report. The termite report identifies just that. We identify subterranean termites, drywood termites, the fungus and dry rot. That's the wood destroying organism that we talked about. And then we have a couple other findings and some further inspections, and we'll talk about those. So what I'm going to do is talk about the termite report here. And then after this slide, I'll kind of weave in some home inspection stuff. But the first type of termite that we look for would be a subterranean termite. So if we go slide, subterranean termites are termites that live in the ground. If you break the word down, sub, below, terranean, the earth, subterranean termites live in the ground. If I'm doing an inspection for subterranean termites, I'm looking for evidence of termites that come up from the ground and eat the wood. These types of termites live in the ground. They don't live in the wood. So what they do is they travel from the ground and they'll build these migratory tubes. And we have some pictures in a minute, but they build these tubes to help them get up to the wood, and they don't eat the wood on site. They harvest the wood. And so they take that wood and they bring it back down to their colony. Subterranean termites and drywood termites, they have very structured colonies. There's a caste system, and they're very similar to ants. A lot of people know what an ant colony looks like. There's been fun cartoons and movies, but ants and termites have very similar caste and structured colonies. And it starts at the center of the colony is the queen. The queen is the main reproductive. She's protected and she mates all day. So you have the reproductives that mate with her. And then you have soldiers that protect them. And then you have workers that go out and get that food and bring it back to their colony. So that's important to know, because that's also the way that helps us treat for subterranean termites. So let's go to the next slide, because I think there's some good pictures there. This is what we're looking for when we look for subterranean termites. That top left box, you see these kind of about the size of pencils coming down from wood members in the sub area. What I'm doing is I'm crawling underneath the house at this point, and those are those migratory tubes. So what's happened is working up the wall is one tube, or working up the base of that pillar there is a tube that all the termites are coming up through. And then what happens is they eat inside of that wood, and now they're building those tubes back down to the ground. So what they're doing is creating like a highway where they can go up, access the food, harvest it, and bring it back to the colony. The picture below would be a very rarely are we finding subterranean termite tubes like that, but those are actual subterranean termite tubes where it almost looks like coral coming up from the ground. What's happened is a lot of subterranean termites there. That's a big colony in the ground. And what they're doing is just building this massive highway up to the wood. Once they get to the wood, they have their safety in the tube. It also keeps a certain amount of humidity that they need. So they're able to kind of access that wood and just work in circles there. You can see the middle bottom picture is the queen. She's big, she reproduces. They're, you know, a normal subterranean termite, and there's a picture on the next slide, but the picture above that is a subterranean termite. Looks like that might be a reproductive, but those termites are small. They're smaller than an ant. That queen termite there is about 1 inch big, so she's big. And you know, she's easy to see when we're doing inspections and we rip open wood, kind of like what's in that bottom right picture there. We might actually see a queen. It's rare that we actually see the subterranean termites. One of the only times that I'll see a live subterranean termite is maybe I'll pick up a piece of wood. You guys will see this in a termite report. It's called cellulose debris. Cellulose debris is wood scraps in a sub area. And what happens is contractors might be doing some repairs in your bathroom. And instead of pulling all of the wood out, they might leave some wood scraps in the sub area. Laziness, they just don't want to get to it. And they think, it's just a little piece of wood, no big deal. Except that's like feeding the chickens for the termites. They'll come up, they'll feed on that piece of wood. And when they're done eating that piece of wood, they'll move on to your house. So what I do when I'm crawling around in the sub area is I look for that wood scrap. I look cardboard boxes. You know, people lay those out when they're doing work down there, so they're not laying in the dirt. Except cardboard is the softest piece of wood, and termites like soft wood. So they'll eat that paper product, and then they move on. So what I'll do is I'll pick those pieces of wood up, those cardboard boxes, those cardboard, and sometimes I'll see live termites there. When I'm treating for subterranean termites, I know that there's only one termite that I have to kill. That's the queen. I kill the queen, I kill the colony. So I have to figure out, okay, how am I going to do my treatment to where I know that this chemical is going to get to the queen? If I pick up a piece of wood and I see live termites, I put that piece of wood right back on the ground. I know that's exactly where I'm going to treat. I know that I have live activity there, and termites are like ants in that they rub each other. They're passing that pheromone. And what they're doing is they're telling everybody as they groom each other, when they pass each other in the, kind of those tubes there, is they're leaving a trail that says, hey guys, food's this way. So that all the other termites know, okay, to follow that. Well, all those termites and all that food, they all get back to one spot, and that's the queen, because the workers go out and get the food, they bring it back to the soldiers. The soldiers are protecting the queens. They're right next to the reproductives. The reproductives obviously get close for obvious reasons to the queen. So if I can get that chemical onto termites, those termites transfer that chemical to the queen. And when they transfer that chemical to the queen, it wipes the queen out, or wipes the colony out. So the chemical that we use is a transfer chemical. You get a little bit into those subterranean termite tubes or wherever we know that the activity is happening, and that chemical will get back to the queen. But if I don't know where those tubes are coming up from the ground, if I don't know where the colony is at, I have to do what's called a full perimeter treatment. And that's where you see our guys, they're drilling holes in the concrete or the brickwork around the perimeter of the house. And then they take this long 3-foot rod, they stick it into the soil, and they pump that chemical in. What's happening is at some point, somewhere, those termites are crossing through that chemical and they can't sense it. Termites are blind, so they don't see it, but they don't taste it, smell it, feel it, and that chemical gets on them, and then it eventually gets back to the queen and will wipe the queen out. So that's the subterranean termite. It lives in the ground, and we treat the ground for eliminating that termite infestation. The next type of termite, next slide, is the drywood termite. The drywood termites live in the wood. So if I'm inspecting a house, I'm looking for drywood termites inside of the wood members that form your house. The 2x4s around windows, in the sub area, rafters on the roof. What happens is termites swarm. Both drywood termites and subterranean termites swarm twice a year. And we're about to get into that swarming season. We're experiencing some weather right now that's perfect for termite swarming. No termite is born with wings. And what happens is the reproductives, sometimes their colonies get too big, and there's too many reproductives. And when the conditions are right, and the conditions would be a nice warm day after a rain. So we had some rain last week. We're getting into this weather where it's nice and warm. Too much time has passed in between those. We're not going to get swarmers tomorrow. But if we get to a point where it rains one day and then it's nice and sunny the next day, which is in the spring and in the fall, we get termite swarmers. And that's termites grow wings overnight. They don't know what to do with their wings. They've never had it. They don't know how to fly. They don't have flight pattern, but they know that this is the indication that their colony is too big. They must expand their colony and start a new colony. And so a male and a female, if they swarm and they land together, they drop their wings and you have a new queen. Drywood termites, because they just kind of get caught in the wind current. And so they'll land on a roof a lot. We find drywood termites a lot in rafters on the exterior of a home because the termites land, they hit the house on the roof, they drop their wings, and now they crawl and they look for wood. And the rafter on your house coming down from the roof system, what rafters support the roof, those rafters become susceptible to termites. And that's why we find termite colonies, drywood termites, a lot of times in rafters. What I'm looking for is evidence of drywood termites when I'm doing my inspection. Again, it's rare that I see the drywood termite itself. What I'm looking for is evidence. And on the next slide, I'll show you some pictures of drywood termites. So that bottom left picture is a really good picture because it shows you a couple different things. It shows you termites, drywood termites in their swarming state where they have wings. You guys can see how big those wings are compared to its body size. It's part of the reason they can't fly well is because their wings are too big. They're also the same size. They don't have the proper wing structure to fly like a bird might. It also gives you an indication of the size. That's a penny there. So you can see how small a drywood termite is. And then you can also see those little droppings there. And those droppings, what we call termite pellets, is their poop essentially. So that picture there, the bottom left, and then the bottom right is kind of a zoomed in picture there of drywood termite pellets. That's what I'm looking for when I look for drywood termites. I look for those pellets because that lets me know that termites are there. The difference between subterranean termites and drywood termites, subterranean termites, I have no idea where their colony is at because I'm not in the ground. And their colonies are 3 or 4 feet deep. I have no idea where they're at. But if I see drywood termite pellets, I can pinpoint where those drywood termites are at because the drywood termites live in the wood. They live there, they sleep there, they eat there, and they poop there. And when their colonies, when the wood fills up, like in that picture, the top right picture, you can see the little hand with the probe, that gallery is completely full of termite pellets. And what happens is they kick those pellets out. Whoever draws the short stick in the termite colony that day, his job is to eat to the surface, about the size of a pinhole, thumbtack, and it'll create that. He'll eat through the wood, he'll eat through the sheetrock, he'll eat through the plaster, and then start kicking out those pellets. And that's what I look for. Now, when we treat drywood termites, we can use the same chemical that we use to treat the subterranean termites and drill it directly into the wood. That's called a local treatment. A local treatment is great when we only have termites in a couple locations. Maybe they're in the open framing in the garage and I see them around the window in the master bedroom. We'll locally treat those 2 areas. We'll open up a little bit of the sheetrock, we'll expose the wood. I make sure that the colony hasn't stretched any further than what I thought. And then we treat the wood, drilling a series of holes and applying liquid chemical into the wood. And maybe the same thing in the framing in the garage. But if I go out to a property and in that bottom middle picture, you can see there's some rafter tails that have a lot of drywood termite damage. If I find those rafter tails and then I'm in the sub area and I see pellets and I'm in the kitchen and there's pellets at the window, if I have drywood termites in a couple different locations, then we have to call what's called a fumigation. And the fumigation is where we put the big tarp over the house, we seal it off, and we pump in chemical gas. And that gas will kill pretty much everything living, including the drywood termites inside of the home. Permeates all of the wood, gets through the entire structure, and it will eliminate the drywood termite infestation. It is the most effective way to treat drywood termites, but it's not always the best. And what you guys should, for the new agents in here, what you guys need to remember is go with the right recommendation for the property. Again, if you have a buyer and the sellers have moved out, the house is vacant, do a fumigation. That's fine. Do the fumigation. We're not worrying about anything. But if you have a seller and you guys order the inspections up front and you want to have a clean inspection report, you want to have everything cleared off by the time you have buyers coming through to make the house stand out. You know, we don't really have to do that in this market, but as the market shifts and goes back and forth, waxes and wanes between buyer power and seller power. But if you want, as a seller, to have, you know, a clean house, a report that doesn't have anything on it, you might not necessarily want to do a fumigation. Fumigation is invasive. There's no other way to put it. A fumigation, everything living has to come out of the house. My grandfather has said for 60 years now that pets, plants, and in-laws all have to come out of the house when we do the fumigation. Food, you have to either seal it off or take it out of the house. Medication, we have to open up windows and cabinets, and we have to open up gun safes. And there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for a fumigation to be effective. And it's, you know, 3 days. It's double or triple the cost of a local treatment. So make sure that you're choosing the right recommendation. Your qualified professional termite inspector will give you the professional opinion about what needs to happen there. And they might offer both. And if you have a local treatment and the termite inspector feels good about doing the local treatment, sometimes it's a better option. You know, sometimes a third the cost, half the cost of doing the fumigation. And, you know, you only have to be out of the house for a few hours, 4, 5, 6 hours while we do the treatment. You can then return to the home on a local treatment, same day that we did the treatment, and everything is fine. So just keep that in mind as you guys are working through your inspection reports, and you guys see the difference between a local and a fumigation. If the termite inspector is calling the local treatment, it's their professional opinion that that local treatment is going to work. And all termite inspection companies offer different guarantees. We offer a guarantee on our work for both termite local treatments and fumigation. So whatever you guys end up choosing, you're going to get a backing to that. But one thing that I would make a point of is make sure that your inspection companies offer a local treatment. Inspection companies don't have to. If you find one drywood termite pellet, the state says that an appropriate recommendation would be a fumigation. There are some companies that as soon as they find one drywood termite pellet, they call to have the house fumigated. You know, if they really what happens is they really stop looking for drywood termites at that point because, well, I already found my drywood termites, I'm going to call my fumigation. But when you stop finding drywood termites, you stop finding drywood termite damage. So another thing to keep in mind between the two different types of termites, subterranean and drywood termites, would be subterranean termite colonies are a lot bigger, 10 times the size of a drywood colony. And they cause more damage as they're doing their work, as they live their lives, but mainly by the way that they're eating through the wood. But subterranean termites cause a lot more damage than drywood termites. So 70% of the homes that we inspect have drywood termites. 35% of the home, 40% of the homes have subterranean termites. Well, about 25% of the homes have both. And sometimes your clients won't have enough money to do both treatments. If it comes down to it, and you have to choose to either do a subterranean termite or a drywood termite treatment, do the subterranean termite treatment first. They cause more damage and they're a lot bigger in terms of colony size. So take care of the subterranean termites. We can always come back and do the drywood termite treatment later. One thing to keep in mind, you know, I listen to sports talk radio and there are ads for termite companies and treatments out there. And they all make, every single ad that I hear makes it seem like termites, well, I mean, the ad says termites cause more damage than fires and floods and earthquakes combined. That's true, but that's just because they're in 70% of the homes that we inspect. So there's always a little bit of damage, and that little bit of damage ends up adding up over time. But it takes a long time for drywood termites or even subterranean termites to cause major structural damage to your home. So when your clients are like, oh no, we have termites, or they get grossed out by the fact that they have termites, every home has termites. Termites have been around for millions of years. They're not going away. It's partly why it's a good industry for us, and it's partly why it's important to have that as a part of a real estate transaction. But they cause a lot, they take a long time to cause a lot of damage. So you can tell your clients kind of rest assured on that, and then always call us because we can kind of give you the severity of that. You know, just kind of, if I'm out at an inspection and I can tell that that's happening where your guys' clients are starting to freak out a little bit, I can offer you some insight and say, hey, listen, I've been doing this a long time. This infestation is not bad. Let's treat it. Let's take care of it now. But I've seen homes 10 times worse than this. So, but just keep that in mind. If you have both types of termites and you only have enough money to take care of one, take care of the subterranean termites first. So we'll go to the next slide. So fungus and dry rot. Now, both a termite inspector and home inspector are going to identify this. A termite inspector is going to call it fungus because that's really what it is. It is When a piece of wood gets wet and dries out and gets wet and dries out, what starts to happen is fungus starts to grow on that wood. It starts out as a surface fungus. I think they call it mycelia, and it's this like very light kind of dusted coating on top of the wood. And over time, it starts to get inside of that wood. And really what that fungus damage does, and sometimes we see these big spores, these big growths, they're almost like mushrooms on the wood. What's happening there is that the damage is, fungus is like cancer for our body. It destroys the inside, the cell walls of the wood. And so a termite inspector will call it by its name because I have a license to identify that. I have a license to identify termites and I have a license to identify fungus. A home inspector will call it dry rot. And they'll tell you that there's water damage to wood because they don't have a license. They can't tell you that. They can tell you that you have bugs, but they can't tell you that you have subterranean termites because home inspectors don't have a license to tell you that you have subterranean termites. So both a termite inspector and a home inspector are going to identify water damage to wood. And we'll go to the next slide here. This is what we're looking for. This is fungus damage to wood. And the left picture there is water damage in the crawl space. What's happened in this crawl space is there's not enough ventilation. And they've got the insulation, that's great, keeps the house warm in the winter and cool in the summer. But what happened if you don't have enough airflow in the sub area, moisture is coming up from the ground and it has nowhere to go. And it gets attracted to that wood. And that wood gets a little bit wet and dries out, and gets a little bit wet and dries out. And over time, because no air is blowing through there, you get fungus damage to the wood members there. And you guys can see that's pretty extensive damage there. Wood decay at the door jamb in the right picture there. When it rains, water is probably pooling in that area. You can see there's a little gap in the concrete. And what's happened is water is probably getting there and just causing damage, and slowly starting to cause that damage up and up and up and up that wood jamb. At this point, you could probably cut the bottom 3 inches off and pack it with concrete. Everything would be fine. But if you leave that fungus there, that fungus will continue to grow. The only way to eliminate fungus is to stop the moisture source. And on the exterior of a home, it's almost impossible because it rains here. We have moisture in the air. Daly City, Pacifica, South San Francisco, there's constantly moisture in the air. That fog bank there, you couldn't eliminate the moisture source. So you have to eliminate the wood. So we take the wood out and put new wood there, and then we'll seal the area around so that we don't let any water get back in there moving forward. Both a termite inspector and a home inspector are going to identify conditions like this at a property. Go ahead, next slide. Other findings. We have a couple different ways that we refer to this on a termite report compared to a home inspection report. A termite report, we have different our report is sectionalized. Every single termite report has one of 3 ways to call anything that we find there. One way is section 1, section 2, or further inspection. Every item that I find at your house either is a section 1 item, a section 2 item, or a further inspection item. And we'll talk about that I think in the next slide. A home inspector report will break your property down into action items and non-action items. Action items being the big ticket items. You have cracks in your foundation, your kitchen faucet leaks, you have water damaged wood members in the sub area. The non-action items would be what we would consider on a termite report, a section 2 or an other finding. Those would be the conditions that if you leave them alone for long enough, they will become a bigger issue. So we'll go to the next slide. We'll talk about what other items, section 2 and non-action items, rain gutters, downspouts that are leaking. On a termite report, I might not have any water damage here. Section 1 is defined as anything active, termites or fungus. Well, if I have a leak, I might not have any water damage. So it's not a section 1 item yet. Section 2 is defined as anything that will eventually lead to a section 1 infestation or infection, infection being water damage. So this gutters aren't designed to hold water. Gutters are designed to shed water. And what's happening here is the gutters are clogged. And when water sits inside of that metal bin, it's going to cause some sort of rust and a little pinhole. There'll be a leak. That leak will get onto the wood that supports that gutter, and you'll have damage. So as a termite inspector, I know this condition right here, this gutter is going to cause damage. I identify this in my report. As a home inspector, same thing. You're going to get some issues here. This might be a non-action item. This particular case might be an action item on a home inspection report because that is a seriously clogged gutter. It's an easy fix. You take the little gutter off, you clean it out, you spray it, everything's good. Fix it now before it becomes an issue. You can see in the other picture, there's some loose grout. That's a bad picture. I mean, it's a good picture of bad missing grout. Not a whole lot of times is it in this condition. Usually when it's in this condition, we already have some damage. But what missing grout will do is cause damage. Water, you're taking a shower, the grout is there in between the tile to protect the backing behind the tile. Well, if you have loose or missing grout, water is going to get inside of that to the backing, and it's going to get through the backing and cause damage to the wood members that support your wall, 2x4s that support your wall. So as a termite report, this is a section 2 item right now. As a home inspection report, we're going to, on a home inspection report, we're going to identify this and say, hey, listen, you have some loose or missing grout around the kitchen sink or in the bathroom, seal it or re-grout the area. So we'll go to the next slide. And then further inspection items, both reports, termite inspection and home inspection, identify further inspection items. And we talked about that further inspection being the garage. A termite inspector, I remember, section 1, section 2 are my 2 calls. Section 1, active termites or fungus. Section 2, preventative, take care of it now before it leads to termites or fungus. But if I open up a garage and it's full of storage, top to bottom, I can't inspect that garage. And I can't tell you if it's a section 1 because maybe you pull all the boxes out and I don't find any termites or fungus. So calling it a section 1 would have been wrong. And I can't call it a section 2 at my inspection because maybe we pull those boxes out and you've got subterranean termites all along the bottom of the floor there in the foundation in the garage. So I have to call it a further inspection where I say, hey, listen, pull these boxes out, open up that sub area. Let me get into the sub area so that I can inspect it. And then I can tell you in the supplemental report what I found in those areas. Again, number 1 further inspection item is a garage full of storage. I joke because when I used to inspect, what I would do is I would pull up the flyer, the online flyer for the property. And anytime I saw the term, the real estate term that was my favorite was light and bright. Well, light and bright on a home flyer, oh, great, everything's beautiful inside. It's all that it translated to as a termite inspector was that the real estate agent went in there and told the buyer or the sellers, hey, listen, you got a lot of junk in your house. It's not going to go well at the open house. Let's box all that stuff up, throw it in the garage, and we'll make the house light and bright. Okay, I get to the property then. Now the garage is full of storage because all the boxes are in there. It's an issue. Pull all of that stuff out. HomeGuard will go back at no charge to further inspect that. Make sure whatever company you guys are using that they don't charge you to do those types of further inspections. We want to identify those areas. We want to get in there. We want you to help you disclose the stuff that you're not a professional on. I mean, really, that's ultimately why you guys are choosing an inspection company. Bill mentioned it. You guys aren't experts. Let the experts come in because you know what comes along with our expert opinion is also our share of the liability. Let us take on that liability for you guys so that you don't have to. If you don't order inspections and something goes wrong later, there's nowhere for you guys to turn. If you guys order inspections, we come in there, we give our professional opinion on that. We can help you. If there's anything wrong, that's where we step up to the plate. But if we didn't get into an area and then later you find out that there was damage there and you call us and you say, hey, listen, you didn't say anything about the termites in the garage. The house is closed. My buyers are mad because we didn't negotiate any of that into the closing costs. Come out and take care of it. I'm just going to tell you to look at your report and say, well, I listed that. There's a further inspection item, 3A, said I wasn't able to get into the garage. Call me, I'll come back out. And it's free. So if you're at an inspection report, and it happens, you're not able to get the house fully prepared. We have a lot of really good videos on our website, though, about how to prepare your house for an inspection, homeguard.com. There's a resource tab there. You guys can watch those videos, but I would recommend that you just forward those links on to your clients to get them. But maybe you can't get it prepared. You're at the inspection. The inspector tells you, the home inspector, the termite inspector says, hey, listen, we got storage in the garage. I wasn't able. The first phone call you guys should make would be to HomeGuard and say, hey, when can you come back out here? Can you come out tomorrow? Because we can get that. We can issue that supplemental report as soon as we're done with the inspection. We do everything on an app. So we can crank our reports out right away. But the more you know about the structure by completing these further inspection items, the smoother that transaction will be. So we'll go to the next slide. I think this is what we're going to talk about. Oh, these are examples of some further inspection items. So obviously, as an inspector, termite inspector, I can't see any of the wood members in that garage. I can't see the perimeter of the foundation. I can't call that. I have to call that a further inspection. But a home inspector is looking at that. They need to look at the foundation for cracks. They need to inspect the garage. The door opener is there in the middle. There's probably an electrical panel somewhere through there that they're not going to be able to get to. So that's the type of stuff that we're now able to inspect. If it's a box we'll slide the box out of the way. But obviously we're not going to move this entire garage full of storage here. And then water stained sheetrock. This is big on a 2-story house. If that's the master bathroom above us, what's causing that water stain there? I'm going to want to know. And I'm going to want to know, is it leaking? Is it active? Is there any damage there? Maybe it was a one-time leak. It was fixed, but there's some water staining there. It just needs to be painted. What we need to do is make all of those determinations. And the way that we make those determinations is by opening that area up, running the plumbing upstairs, making sure that nothing's actively leaking, and then also making sure that there's no damage inside of there. So those would be typical further inspection items. So here's what I was talking about, section 1, section 2, and further inspections. Go ahead and next slide. HomeGuard tries to make it, our report is designed for the real estate transaction. Remember those guys I have working for me? I got to make the reports really simple for them to write, so they're really simple for you guys to read. Anything in our report that starts with the number 1 is a section 1 item. Anything that starts with the number 2 is a section 2 item. And then anything that doesn't fit into one of those 2 is a further inspection item. We're not able to determine anything at the time of our inspection. So you guys have this PowerPoint slide. I gave it to Judy. If you don't already have it, you will. But you guys can kind of read this information here. Section 1 is anything active. Section 2 is anything preventative. Take care of it now before it becomes an issue. And then further inspection. So when you're looking at the diagram of a house, a termite report has to include a diagram of the house. Our home inspection report gives you like a, all of our home inspectors are FAA pilots. They fly the drones. So what'll happen is they kind of take this nice aerial drone footage. So you get that kind of aerial footage of the home. Well, the termite report, we walk around the perimeter of the home and kind of paste it off. And what we do is we put these findings on the property where the damage or infestation is at. So that as a non-expert, you guys can look at this diagram, read item 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1O in the front left corner of the garage, and then flip through our report and read what that is and know where that damage is at. So we'll click the next slide. And this is how it's done in our report. Now, again, our report is designed for the real estate transaction. So we group all of our section 1 items together, all of our section 2 items together, and then our further inspection items. But no matter what company you choose, the report is going to be broken down into sections. And some other companies, they kind of mix their section 1 and section 2. That's okay. But what we do to help that is that we put in there what the finding, what the recommendation is, and then what this section item is. Section 1, section 2, or further inspection. So for us, section 1, we tell you what the damage is, what our finding was. I was out at the property. I found fungus damage to the barge rafters. Clearly, it's raining in these pictures, but even through the rainy picture, you can tell that there's damage to those wood members there. And we include a picture in the report. Most termite companies don't, and that's okay. They don't have to. All that we're doing is giving you a representative number of pictures so that it helps you guys when you're dealing with your clients. If they ask, well, what's a barge rafter? Well, you can see the barge rafter is the last rafter on the edge of the house that comes all the way down. And the reason that a barge rafter might be more expensive than a regular rafter is because I'm replacing the entire section of that rafter. That might be a 14-foot span rafter that I'm replacing, and I got to pull all those ridge tiles off of the rafter to do that repair. But I'm going to give you what my finding is. I'm going to give you what my recommendation is, how I would recommend to remove that wood and replace it, and then whether it was a section 1, section 2, or further inspection item. A home inspection report is going to break it down into action items and non-action items. And it's going to tell you what the action item is. We were in the kitchen, we ran the faucet at the sink, and we noticed there was a leak at the sink drain. The owner is advised to contact a plumber to repair this drain. The termite report, again, is going to put dollar amounts for every single item that we have. Every item that we can do, which is most of them, we will give you a dollar amount. The home inspection report, remember, there's no license, so they can't do any of the work. Home inspectors can't do any work on a property 1 year before an inspection or 1 year after an inspection. So all a home inspector is going to do is tell you, you have a leak at the drain, you have water damage to this rafter, contact a contractor, contact a plumber to fix the drain. We'll go to the next slide. This is an important area. I talked earlier about the importance to read your reports. Again, this is on page 3 of our report. It's on page 3 of most termite reports. Page 1 is the cover. Page 2 might be some information about the property or maybe a diagram. And then for us, this area at the top, it looks boilerplate, but it is not. It is not boilerplate. When we say area is not inspected, please read. We put it in bold letters. We capitalize all of it because I just want to stress that these are areas that no termite inspection company will inspect. But they're areas that pertain to the property that we inspected. So you see information in here about a 2-story house. You see information in here about carpets. As a termite inspector, I don't pull up carpets. But if your house didn't have carpets, or your house wasn't a 2-story property, that information wouldn't be here. So this isn't boilerplate. This is information, though, that just keep in mind when you call us and say, hey, listen, you didn't say anything about the crack in the foundation. We go to remodel the house. We pulled up the carpet in the front living room, and I have a crack in the foundation. Well, obviously, because those are areas that we don't inspect. We don't inspect sleeper floor. Sleeper floor, think of a garage. A garage is always lower than your house, and so you have to kind of step in from the garage to the house. Some people convert their garage, and what they do is they build a little wood platform to make it level with the inside of their home. But there's no way to access underneath that floor. That is called a sleeper floor. No termite inspector, no home inspector is going to inspect on an original inspection that sleeper floor. Now you could call us and say, hey, listen, we have a sleeper floor there. I don't know how to open it. Do you guys know how to open it? And we say, yeah, we're going to cut a hole in the floor and we'll create an access and we'll look in through the different bays. We can do that. But at the original inspection, if we notice any of those things, we're going to put it in this area that we put at the beginning of the report. Areas not inspected, please read. Please read that. Please read that section whenever there's an issue or even prior to the issue. If you can read this and understand what we're not inspecting, then you'll have a better understanding of what then is in the report. So we'll go to the next slide. Here's where we're getting to our guarantees. A lot of different companies have different guarantees. If you're doing a fumigation, where we put that tarp on the house goes camping for the weekend. If you're doing the fumigation, look for a company that gives you a 3-year guarantee. Some companies are still offering 2 years. That's fine, but there's a big difference in between 2 and 3 years for a termite infestation. Let's say I fumigate this, I'm in my office here in San Jose. Let's say we fumigate this building here. And 3 days from now, we take the tarp off. And 3 days was also perfect swarming weather. And termites come and land on this building the day we take the tarp off. And they start a new infestation. I'm not going to see that infestation for 2 years because they're going to get in the wood and it's going to take them 2 years before they even need to kick out any of those pellets, before they even need, well, they got to build themselves up from the original 2 to the, drywood termites are about 50,000, 100,000. So it's going to take them a couple of years to develop that infestation. So if you're only getting a 2-year guarantee and 2.5 years from now, you start to see drywood termites because just so happened they swarmed and landed on the property. If you have a 2-year guarantee, you're not going to get any coverage there. Go for that 3rd year, get that extra year. And there are companies out there that offer 3 years. We're not the only one. Any other repair that we do, wood repair or local treatment on the drywood termites is going to be 1 year. So just, understand the guarantees. The guarantees are all going to be on that same 3rd page there for us. Sometimes it's 2nd, sometimes it's the 3rd. But what's important to understand from this is what we don't guarantee. It's a lot of times it's easier to sell the negative. What I like to highlight here is these are areas that termite companies don't guarantee any work performed by anybody else. They're not employed by me. They're not subcontracted out by me. I'm not going to guarantee their work. I have no control over what they do. I don't know the training they've had. For my guys that go out there and do the treatments and do the repairs, they work. I know what their skill is, and we train to that. But I can't guarantee anybody else's work. And I don't guarantee against future infestations or infections. I go out, my inspection report is good for the time that my report that I was out there. So if 3 weeks after I'm there, you put the trash can back underneath the sink and disconnect the plumbing drain, I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for what was happening at the time of my inspection. And then conditions present but not evident. So this is a little bit tricky, but if I get out there and I don't see the termites, because termites live in the wood and they live in the ground and there's no evidence of the termites. And 6 months later, you have termites, you call us and you say, hey, listen, you didn't say anything 6 months ago. Technically, I'm not responsible for that because they weren't evident. And if I can prove that they weren't evident by other pictures or whatever, then the inspection company isn't responsible for that. But here's where the relationship with Marlin and here's where our relationship with Bill come in handy is whenever you guwe have an issue, don't think that it's going to be a problem. It's done. We have this big, call us. We're our business is your business. So if we can't make something happen and I lose your business, I lose your business. There's nothing, I can't get any more money from that relationship that we have. You guys can't use our professional opinion moving forward. So what we want to do is develop that relationship. We have an excellent relationship with Legacy. I've known Bill for a long time, but your guys' contact is Marlin. Whenever you guys have an issue, that's her job. Call her, say, hey, listen, these are the issues that I'm having. This is the scenario. What can we do here? And we're always willing to help, especially when the conversation goes like that. Like, hey, we got an issue. Let's figure out a resolution versus I'm going to sue you guys, because the way that we handle that, two different routes that we go there. So what I'm getting to is if there's ever a problem, call the inspection company, not just HomeGuard, but any company that you have. What's important to know from a termite standpoint is that there is a higher power. There is a structural pest control board. If you guys have an issue with your termite inspection company and they're not handling the issue the way that you want them to, take it up with the structural pest control board. Call the structural pest control board and say, hey, listen, I'm having a problem with this termite inspection company. Here's what happened. And then they have investigators that go out. And just so you guys know, my grandfather was the president of the structural pest control board, and my ex-employees are now the investigators on the structural pest control board's special investigator team. But when you guys have an issue, call the inspection company first. I think there's a question there. I just want to make sure that I get into something. Since sellers have inspection done already before the sale and sellers are not willing to do the repair, buyer is willing to wait to have the repair after the close of escrow, how long is a bid good for? 4 months. So that goes back to the question is, we give a bid to do the repair and then you want the repair done. Actually, if it's after the close of escrow, that's good. If I give you a bid that's $1,000 to replace wood, and let's say it's 6 months from now, as long as it's not 10 years from now where the cost of doing the repair has increased just with the cost of living. But if it's after the close of escrow, our reports are technically good for as long as the condition was evident. So if I go out to a property and I don't identify something, and 3 years from now, you can prove that that condition existed. Maybe there was a home inspection report done that included a picture of something that I should have seen as a termite inspector. I'm financially responsible to do that, even after the close of escrow. So technically, our reports are good for as long as we should have known about something that was happening. But a bid, if you want the repairs done, and let's say it's before the close and you want those repairs done to get that certification, which I think is coming up on the next slide, has to be done within 4 months. But if it's after the close of escrow and you're say, hey, listen, 8 months ago, you guys did an inspection. Nobody wanted to do the repairs then. We want to do the repairs now. Call us up. We'll come out and we'll generally honor that same price. We might have to go back out and make sure that damage hasn't gotten any worse. And so that it's comparable to what we gave the bid on, but that bid will be good. Hopefully that answered your question, Marietta. So next slide. Reinspection. So this was kind of getting to that. So not only was that repair be done, but if somebody else is doing that repair and you want us to come back out and certify that that damage was taken out, we have to do that reinspection within 4 months. Otherwise, we can't certify it. So if you say, if I go out there today and I issue a termite report and you have just one water damage raptor, you say, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. My brother will take care of it. And then you wait, you close escrow, or maybe you haven't closed escrow and you want to get the reinspection, but it's been 4 months in the day. I have to go back out and do another inspection to make sure that that damage hasn't gotten any worse. I can't do any work on the property if it's for a certification longer than 4 months. And then if you order a reinspection from a termite company, they have to come out within 10 days. This is kind of an antiquated rule. It's an old rule. Most of the time we're out within 2 or 3 days. I think we're booked out about 3 days right now. But it's just a way that termite companies won't punish you for having somebody else do the work. So if you have somebody else do the work, I can't, and then you call me and say, hey, I need to have a reinspection done. I can't say, yep, I'll get out there in 30 days. Because your escrow, you're going to close escrow, or your rate is going to expire. There's a lot of different reasons, contingency period. So a reinspection must be done within about 10 days. It's a visual inspection, and then any guarantees on a reinspection are going to be done by the people doing the work. We'll go to the next slide. And that's for both termite and home inspectors. When we go out and we do those re-inspections, the re-inspection serves a purpose on the termite report more than a home inspection. From a home inspection report, the re-inspection is just making sure that things are working now that weren't working at the original inspection. If I go out there as a home inspector and I tell you that the back right cooktop wasn't firing, maybe it was just dirty and needed to be cleaned. You had somebody go in there and clean it. You can call me, I'll come back out and re-inspect it now when I turn on the gas, that it fires and lights up. And then I issue that in a re-inspection. It's kind of like that supplemental. So that way you could show that to a potential buyer and say, hey, listen, it wasn't working at the time of our inspection. We had it cleaned, we had it repaired. Maybe the dishwasher wasn't working or whatever it was, rafter damage. If you had it taken care of, you can order the re-inspection. The termite report, if you want that certification, if you want a piece of paper saying that all of the damage has been removed, and typically that would be a lender requirement, you have to order the re-inspection. You have to get that on the termite side. When you guys are ordering work with HomeGuard, you don't have to wait for the re-inspection. You guys can get that repair done, and as soon as that damage is out, we're going to issue you that piece of paper with the notice of completion on there. And the way that you do that is through this authorization agreement. It's a couple pages. It's at the back of every single termite report. You initial the bottom page. You talk about what items you want performed, the dollar amount. Either you can fill that out, or you can call our repair concierge team, and they'll fill it out for you, send it to you. So all you have to do is sign it. We can go to the next page. I think we have DocuSign to assist in that. A couple signatures. Here you can see the dollar amount. A lot of seasoned agents, when they get a termite report, they know that they're using this report for disclosure, and they know that they're going to use it to negotiate a price. So what they typically do is flip to the last page, look at the dollar amount and say, great, $7,000 for section 1. That's the price that we're going to negotiate with the buyer, or that's the price that we're going to negotiate with the seller. Don't do that. Don't do that. Read the report to find out what the section 1 items were, because sometimes the section 1 items don't give all the information. That house that condo that I talked about that had like $12,000 of sprinkler damage, really the only call that I could make at the time of that inspection was to open up one little area to see how bad. Did it go into the wall framing? Did it go beyond that? Well, my bid was only to open up one area, $500. But that $500 didn't give it, and it says it in big letters, this bid is to open this area only. It does not include any wood damage. But it's a section 1 item. Because there's damage there, I need to find out what the other damage is so that I can appropriately bid it. But it would only show up as a $500 item on the report. So you have to read the report to understand what those prices are. Go to the next page, please. Here's that certification. The certification talks about what type of certification you're getting. If I go out to a property and brand new build, new construction, built in 2019, or a condo, very clean, a house that was recently remodeled, I might not find any infestation or infection at the time of my inspection. That house, from a termite standpoint, is going to come with a certification on the actual inspection report. This is to certify that the above mentioned property is free and clear of any active infestation and infection in the visible and accessible areas. So the important thing to remember there, though, is that it's the visible and accessible areas. Any inaccessible area is excluded from that certification. So that house that I talked about that I wasn't able to get into the sub area, if I didn't have any other section 1 on that property, I would certify that property. But I also tell you, make sure you have me come out and inspect the sub area, because it's likely I'm going to find something underneath there. So just because you have that certification doesn't necessarily mean that the property is beautiful, clean, no issues. It's going to be great. Again, it's the importance of reading the reports. Don't just focus on the section 1. You have to pay attention to the further inspection items, because sometimes they include areas like the sub area where I'm going to find a lot of issues. Most typically, the certification is going to come on a notice of completion. So we issue the report. We tell you have 5 things wrong with the property. Your brother goes out and fixes those 5 things. We go back out there and we say, yep, all the damage has been removed. Owners advised to continue with repairs, or all the damage has been removed. The owner did the repairs like we recommended in our report. Looks great. Here's your certification. So you'll get the certification at that re-inspection. There is a way that we can do what's called a limited certification, where let's say it's a condo and I get there and I find dry wood termites everywhere. My only recommendation would be to have that condo fumigated, but you're not going to have that whole condo fumigated because it's attached to 8 other units, 10 other units. Not all 10 people are going to agree to the fumigation. You're not going to pay for the entire. So I have to issue what's called a secondary substandard issue of treatment, where I'm going to say, hey, listen, my recommendation, my only real recommendation to treat the drywood termites would be to fumigate. However, because of the conditions present, we're going to offer a local treatment instead. That local treatment wouldn't get you a certification. If you had to have a certification for your lender, the lender said, hey, listen, I'm not going to certify this property. I'm not going to fund this loan until you show me a certification. You're not going to get it on that local treatment. You can, but we're just going to put this certification with it. Basically saying, I certify everything else on this property, except we went with a secondary substandard method of treatment on the dry wood termites. It helps. This is there to help you guys in those difficult situations. Again, that would be a situation where you want to call us and talk with one of our managers, talk to Marlin and let her know, hey, listen, this is the issue that I'm having. How can we get through this? How can we get our certification? So that's the certification. Certification applies to the termite report. There's no real certification on a home inspection report because there's not a it's not a form that's a part of any sort of mandated issuance on like there is with the termite report. So I think the next slide might be it, actually. Yeah, I mean, there's our socials there. I would recommend going to our website, homeguard.com. There's a resources tab for real estate agents there. It's good. And there's a lot of videos how to prep your house for inspection, what to expect on an inspection. All of what I talked about today, we have sheets there of what a termite inspection is, what a home inspection is, what a roof inspection is, and what's there for you guys to do. It's there for you guys to kind of refresh any information that you have, but what it's really there for is for you guys to direct your clients there. I like playing golf. I like playing golf with you guys. So let's go play golf. And instead of you guys having to be with your clients, you can say, hey, listen, just go read that stuff first and then call me later. Really what it's designed, have you guys go out, spend more time closing more deals so that you guys can be the best agents that you can be. So I think that's it. If you guys have Marlin put, if you have any orders, there's our phone number there. But if you guys have any questions, I can take those questions now. Appreciate the time, obviously, Bill, for letting us come in and talk about the inspection reports. Yeah, I think that's all that I got.
Good. Jimmy, touch for a minute about our concierge service on the repairs.
Yeah, so the repairs are a big part of the transaction on the termite side. And so what we've created is we're a termite. I mean, we're a brand at this point. Legacy is a brand. HomeGuard is a brand. So it used to be we were a termite inspection company. That's what we did. Well, as a part of the termite inspection, you do work. Last year we did like 2,500 jobs, repair jobs. So essentially we're like a contractor now. We're like a construction company. So instead of us being a termite company that does some repairs, we've created a termite repair concierge. And the whole focus of that repair concierge is to walk your clients through the repair process so that you guys don't have to. You guys will, if you order repairs through HomeGuard, we make phone calls to your clients. We talk about these are the repairs that we're going to do. These are the contractors we're going to send out. Every morning, we're going to tell you, hey, listen, our contractor's on his way or our contractor's running late. This is where we end every day that we do status updates. So it's less time that you have to spend calling us, then turning around and calling your clients. Let us just do all that communication for you. Again, the goal is that you guys' time is money. So go out, spend that time door knocking and doing, well, we can't really do that anymore, but go out, spend more time locking in another deal, not having to focus on the repairs of a thing, let us handle most of that. So we have a repair concierge, an entire department that's designed to hold your clients' hands through that process while filling you guys in. We make phone calls. Every time we do a phone call, we follow up an email to the client, and then we CC the agent on that. So you guys are aware of that communication happening the whole time. And then hopefully the goal there is to make you guys look more professional. We do what we can to assist in that process. So that's it. Do you do that for both the buyer and the seller? Yes, Marietta, we do that for both. Yeah, whoever is ordering the repairs, we'll walk both parties through. Now, obviously, if we're doing it for the buyer, the seller has to be aware because we're at the property. So we're calling the sellers to say, hey, listen, this is when we're coming in. But we definitely do it for both the buyer and the seller.
Any other questions for Jimmy? I want to add a couple things. These guys are part of your team. So, I told you earlier on when we first started, not only are they're a very reputable company, but they're a very honorable company. And that's why I've had the relationship with them as long as I have. And when I say honorable is that they're going to work with you. And if you treat them like they're part of your team, there's no reason to, like Jimmy said earlier, hey, I'm going to sue you, miss this or that. You're working together as a team for one goal in mind, is to get the deal closed the easiest way possible. They will work with you. They will work with you. Come at it with the right attitude. All right. Always These guys are your team members. When you start negotiating, if you're going to negotiate for credits for repair work, take a close look at when you see a section 1 item, take a very close look at, Jimmy showed you the recommendations. Where there's a red flag sometimes in those recommendations is that they'll put something in there that'll state that, hey, you know, upon opening up, you might find something that's going to be further, there could be some further damage. So depending on what the repair item is, look for that kind of language in their recommendation, because it could be something where they can't see it now. They're calling it, but when it gets opened up, the damage could end up being more extensive. And once you negotiate credits and a settlement with the seller, you're done. There's no more money. It's different than, let's say, for example, if HomeGuard were to go out there and open something up and they've been authorized to do the repairs and they find more section 1 work, and the agreement cut with the seller was to complete all section 1 work and provide a pest certification, that's not negotiable for the sellers, because they've already agreed to give you to do all the section 1 work and get you a pest certification. But 9 times out of 10 right now with us, it's usually we're negotiating something. So if you see some language like that in there, that's a red flag for you to think, well, you know what, we might have to pad this credit. You could even reach out to HomeGuard and ask the inspector, do you anticipate that if you open this up, that there could be more damage? And if so, give me a ballpark or just give me a rough idea, because a lot of times in the past, what we used to do many, many years ago when we could do holdbacks on termite work, we would hold back 1.5 times the amount, just anticipating that there could be further damage. So when you're negotiating repairs, keep that type of stuff in mind. And if you're not sure, you know, reach out to these guys and try to see if they can even help you with, well, you know, this item is going to be a $1,000 item, but you know, there could be another $500 or $600 worth of damage in there. So I'll let Jimmy jump in on that. But I
yeah,
mean,
definitely want to piggyback that. And it may, a lot of our, you know, we've been working with Bill for a long time, and he brings a unique, skill and experience to this, where he not only offers insight when we, you know, typically it's when we made a mistake, but he'll offer insight on how to make it better. It's not just, hey, you guys did this wrong, fix it. So what we actually did, I don't know if this happened maybe 10 years ago, and it may have been just based off of that experience alone, but as a termite report now, as a termite inspector, there are 2 different ways that we make that call. One call is, here's the damage. Damage may extend into inaccessible areas or beyond this. The second, what we added though, is a new way that we write that is damage is likely to extend. So as a termite inspector, if I'm out there and I see damage to siding and it's bad, I can poke right through that damage. I know that damage is going to extend. I can't call what that additional damage is because I can't see it, but I can write in that report more than just damage may extend. I can write in there, damage is likely to extend. And anytime you guys see that, call us, because just like Bill said, I can give you an example of hey, listen, I don't know what's going to happen in there, obviously, because I can't open it. I can't see it until it's open. But I had a situation like this a month ago where this is what the result was. And we keep all of those jobs. So you call our repair concierge and ask them, hey, I see this termite report that says damage is likely to extend. The sellers aren't going to give me approval to open that area, so I need to negotiate here. What's it going to look like? And just like Bill was talking about, we're going to be able to give you some ballpark estimates on that stuff. So I don't know, Bill, if that was something that you'd mentioned 10 years ago, but we started doing it that way.
Probably.
So.
But yeah, I mean, you guys need to take advantage of that. And like I said, these guys are a great resource on that, because once you negotiate the credits, it's a final settlement, you're done. So if you go in there, you didn't get enough credits, the first person that your clients can complain to is you. And then you're going to be reaching into your pocket, okay? Because they're going to say, hey, look, you didn't negotiate enough credits for us. So again, do a little bit of extra due diligence, reach out to HomeGuard. They're really, really good about helping you guys. And we have a great relationship with them. They're definitely going to be going the extra mile for you guys. So again, great presentation today, you guys. I really, really appreciate you guys coming in. If you guys have questions that come up later, you can always reach out to Marlin and Jimmy. They're more than happy to answer your questions anytime. And any of the inspectors, you know, if you can't be there, you know, you can always call them up. You should try to be at the inspections with your client, listen to what the findings were, ask questions, encourage your clients to ask questions. But if something were to come up later, they're really, really good on the outreach, you guys. So again, I want to thank you guys again today for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay, guys.
everyone. Bye.
Thursday, we're doing the lending piece. Paula will be on teaching you about the loan process, how to pre-qualify a buyer. So we look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday morning. So thanks again for attending today, you guys.